We have our database up and running, our entity mapped to it, and a table created according to this mapping. The last step is to have actual logic in the user service so that when we access the routes in the user's controller, users will actually be created, fetched, etc. So this will be the focus of this lesson. In order to be able to interact with the database, first we'll need to inject here in the user service a TypeORM repository. In our case, a user's repository. But before doing it, first we have to perform this process. Going to the users module, in here I will create the imports array, and in this array I will call TypeORM module dot for feature, and as an argument I will pass here an array with the entities that I want to make their repositories available. In our case, the user entity. And save. I can go back to the service and inject the repository. I will do it in the constructor. So I will declare a constructor here. And inject the repository like this. You can consider this injection code just as boilerplate. Alright, so now let's actually implement the logic. In the create method, first we will create a user instance from the create user detail. Like this. After that, we will save the user in the database and then return the result. The findAll method will be very simple. We'll just return all the users from the database. In find_one, we'll first find a user, according to some criteria. In our case, the ID. If the user is not found, we'll throw a not found exception. As you can see, that problem with the imports happened again, so I'll just reload the window. And I'll use the message user not found. And if it was found, then just return it. And something important that I forgot is that this method returns a promise. So I need to put in here await and mark the function as async, or else it would not work. In the update method, I will first preload a user. So preload is a TypeORM repository method that finds an entity in the database, just like the find one method. But you can also pass on values so that if an entity is found, then its attributes are then replaced. So this is useful for updating. So I will pass here the ID, and then after it, the contents of the update user detail. So I'll use the spread operator. If the entity is not found, then I'll throw the not found exception. And if it is found, I will then save it once again in the database and then return it. In the remove method, I will simply find a user. This time I won't even use the method from the TypeORM repository. I will use this method that I have already written, because if the user is not found, it already throws the correct exception. And then remove the user and return the result. Now, with our user service implemented, we can then proceed to test it. I'll go here in the terminal and execute the application again. With the application running, we can then go back to Insomnia to test the routes. If I try to find all the users, then I'll receive an empty array as there are no users yet. If I try to find one user with the ID of 1, then it will give me the message user not found. And the same for the update and remove routes. Now, if I create a user with this data, then I'll see that it worked, and it also assigned to the user the ID of 1. And I also get the registry dates for when it was created and last updated. So now if I go back to the find all route, now it will give me that user in an array, as there could be more users. In the find one route, it will give me that user. Now in the update route, let's say that I change his name to David, for example, and also change here in the email and not send these other fields. And then we can see the appropriate changes. And if we go to the remove method and remove the same user, it will return his data to me. But if I try to find out again, then I'll get the empty array once again. With this, we have finished the lesson. so I'll just commit the changes. Implementing user logic. Notice that we are checking manually if the user exists in order to throw an exception. This causes duplication throughout our code base. Also, remember that when we were implementing the user entity, we marked the email and phone as unique fields. So what happens if I go back to Insomnia? So I have deleted the user. Now I will create it again. But what happens if I try to create him once more with the same email? Then we get an internal server error, which is kind of like a generic error. Well, in the extra module 2, exception filters, we'll learn how to solve both of these problems in an elegant way. So, until the next lesson.